Joining us now, Jill Vogel. Jill is a state senator in Virginia, and she is running for lieutenant governor. That race will be decided on November 7th. She is running against the Democratic nominee, Justin Fairfax. We have predicted that Jill Vogel is going to win this race. She has run a masterful campaign, and she's been true to herself and a great supporter of President Trump and his policies. She's been there with us. I remember when I first got involved with the Trump campaign, which was immediately, even before it started, as you know, and I was co-chair in Virginia. Jill was one of the first calls I made, and she's like, John, anything I can do to help, call me before you call anybody else. And she's been fantastic. She's been there the entire time. Great lady, and she's joining us now. Jill Vogel, great to have you with us.
Good morning. It's great to be with you 5 more days. I can't believe it. Till we all vote.
Jill, how do you?
I'm really excited.
Jill, how do you win this race?
We win this race by closing strong, by pushing out the issues that are critical in the lieutenant governor's race. When I get a chance to tell the story of the LG race, we win. And the positions of my opponent, Justin Fairfax, are so extreme that they have really made him the outlier. His positions on health care, the only person out of 6 people running statewide who's taking the position that it's not Obamacare he supports or Medicaid. We're talking single-payer, government takeover of all health care, no private health insurance. His second big issue, where he's 1 out of 6, where he's completely out of step with Virginia, and in fact, in opposition to the rest of the Democrats on his ticket, is energy and jobs. So much so that they actually had Democrats who refused to go door to door unless his image and his information was taken off their list. So if I can tell the story about the difference between where I stand and where my opponent stands, we win. We win Republicans, we win independents, and we win a bunch of Democrats. And I think the fact that we are now getting momentum, we got the endorsement of the Richmond Times-Dispatch, of the Virginia pilot. The Dispatch called him not prepared. He's not been engaged in Virginia, has had no experience. I've been in the Senate for 10 years. I'm so optimistic, but it's really all on Tuesday about who shows up, which is why I'm so happy to be on and talk about the race and encourage everybody, please, it's going to all be about turnout on Tuesday.
If I might, Jill Vogel, I want to get to some of the positions of your Democratic opponent, Justin Fairfax, who's a pretty good lawyer, and he was a former U.S. prosecutor. He has come out in favor of sanctuary cities multiple times. After the horrific attack we just saw with a Home Depot rented truck in New York City, how can anybody in their right mind defend sanctuary cities in Virginia or Maryland or any place else?
Well, there has been a crushing chorus of people calling on Justin Fairfax to condemn those vile images that were in the ad that they have embraced, an ad with a pickup truck running down children. And those same images were the same images that we then saw play out in real life in New York City with a guy who said he did it specifically on Halloween because he thought there'd be more people out. How it is that in a political campaign you can stoop so low that you would decide that it's worth that to make your case, fine, be for sanctuary cities. You know, support things that nobody in Virginia supports, and we all know are horrible policies for Virginia. But to play at that level, of that kind of imagery, I have to tell you, it takes a lot to shock me. I've been in politics for a long time. I am still shocked and appalled at the ads that were run and that side has still refused to condemn. It's just appalling.
Well, Justin Fairfax, not only did he not condemn the ad, but he told a radio host, Jeff Katz, I believe, yesterday or the day before on WRVA in Richmond, he told him that he hadn't seen the ad, that he's been busy campaigning, and he hadn't checked into it. Now, this ad has been all over national and Virginia and local Richmond news. It's been on every website that you can imagine, that video of that ad, because it's so despicable. How do you go for 2 days and say you haven't seen the ad if you're Justin Fairfax?
It's utterly implausible. It's dishonest, and it's an effort to walk that back. After you double down on it for 48 hours, people called on you to condemn it. There is no scenario where you're running for lieutenant governor in Virginia and you miss 2 full news cycles of the most significant development in the entire campaign. There is no scenario where that's true. And if he believes that voters are that stupid, it's insulting. The ad was gross, and reprehensible and insulting. And then to later say, oh, well, now that we're all getting so much pressure, I actually didn't see it. I mean, that's insulting too. Just own it. Man up. You're running for lieutenant governor in Virginia. You have taken positions that are terrible for Virginians and that Virginians don't support. You're, so far the outlier that even the Democrats on your own ticket have tried to marginalize your message so that nobody hears it. And now you're trying to say that you don't know about it. It's just not defensible. And I hope that this kind of imagery is so offensive that people will not just, call for condemnation, but that they will say enough, and that it will cause people on our side to really think long and hard about the election on Tuesday and how critical it is to spread that message around. Because we had a lot of people who were just frankly not that enthusiastic. It's an off-year election. Folks don't always pay attention. This should be a wake-up call to everybody.
So the Democrats in Northern Virginia put a flyer out with their ticket on it. They put two flyers out, one in one area with their ticket, which is Northam, Fairfax, Herring. And then in another area, they put the same flyer out, but they cut Justin Fairfax out of the flyer. By the way, he's African American. They cut him out of the flyer like he doesn't exist because that was going to households they didn't think were that liberal. What's the deal here?
So I think you got to be pretty out of step with your ticket and pretty out of step with Virginians if they are so concerned about your positions that they actually remove you from the ticket literature like you don't exist. And ultimately, that was the decision they made because his position on energy and jobs and, in fact, health care has made him such an outlier and such a detriment to that ticket that they yanked him off. And there were people, Democrats, who said, we refuse to support this ticket and go door to door and distribute literature if he's on there. And that is saying something. And when, folks who are concerned about, supporting the Democratic ticket, go to the Democratic ticket and say, he comes off or we don't support you, I mean, they rolled him like in about 3.5 minutes. And I think it speaks volumes to what's happening on their side. I mean, it's a melt all the way down in the last week when, you need to be unified and you need to have a message that Virginians support. And they're all over the map. And their biggest liability is Justin Fairfax, their lieutenant governor candidate, who has put them in a horrible position by taking positions they don't support, like, 100% against any new energy infrastructure, clean burning natural gas, against all those jobs in manufacturing that will come to Virginia. The Democrats can't defend that. And so they yanked him off. And the other big issue that they face with him is his positions on health care are so extreme that the Democrats don't embrace those. This is not a guy who's supporting Obamacare or Medicaid expansion. We're talking about my opponent supporting full Virginia government takeover of all health care, which is to say 5 million people lose their private health insurance. And worse, the Commonwealth of Virginia can't raise taxes enough to support something like that. It would be billions of dollars added to our budget. And I don't know any Democrats or independents who think that is the health care solution. I've been in the Senate for 10 years working on health care, trying to get health insurance for kids with autism, working on, unbelievable amounts of issues that address health care for families. And as a constituent service matter, it's the biggest issue. And for them to take those positions, it's killing Democrats. So the fact they're willing to pull him off was, I think, a shocking statement about what they think about him.
Well, it's a shocking statement, but he's also taken, his position on health care in Virginia, so that everyone knows, running for lieutenant governor, is basically to socialize medicine in Virginia. So if you live in Virginia, you would have a Bernie Sanders socialized medicine situation. You wouldn't have the option to get your own private insurance or go to your own hospital. Everybody would pay in a higher tax, right? It's $10 billion for starters.
Right.
So the income tax, even if it stayed flat, which wouldn't happen because taxes go up, you get less people working because of what happens. So taxes would have to go up from 6% to 10% to pay for that, and then you would have a nationalized healthcare system in Virginia where it's basically everybody is on Medicaid at a minimum cost of $10 billion. That is a crazy position to take.
It's outrageous, and I don't know of anybody who believes that that's better for consumers or better for patients or better for doctors. What we desperately need, and what I've been advocating for, is more competition in healthcare. Not less, not the government taking it over and giving everybody the worst possible healthcare you can get, but you want is more competition. You want COPN reform. You want to graduate more people in the health science field, fund more residency slots, everything that would actually drive costs down and make healthcare more accessible. And that's what people support, and it's the single biggest issue in this race, for sure. And we've tried to run a really positive campaign with solutions and, united on a ticket where, thank God I'm still on the ticket list, because we have got the right message. And I think if people know the difference between myself and my opponent, we win big. But that's the big challenge when you're the lieutenant governor candidate. You've got to work really hard to break through. And they've done a really good job in making sure that Justin Fairfax doesn't break through. The people don't know where he stands because he's killing them.
Just trying to hide him on the ticket, basically, because his positions are so extreme, Joe Vogel, and so out of step with anything that you've even thought about doing in Virginia or Maryland or any place else. I mean, it's craziness. And
it is crazy. And he signed the Bernie Sanders pledge to get the Bernie endorsement, pledged Medicare for all, full government-run takeover. And that's where he is, and that's what he believes. And I can tell you, I've been in the Senate for 10 years and have worked on these issues. And I can tell you, if you're engaged and you understand how Virginia's budget works, I serve on the Finance Committee, if you've worked on these issues, you know that this is not an option. It's not sustainable. It's not viable, and it's not what people want in terms of health care. So, there's just a big contrast between the two of us, and it is pretty shocking, some of the positions that he's taken. And it extends well beyond health care. It's sanctuary cities. It's, refusing to condemn an ad that everybody believed is the most vile thing they've.
We are out of time. I want to thank State Senator Jill Vogel for being with us. She is running for Lieutenant Governor, the election in Virginia on November 7th. For more information, go to Vogel for Virginia. That's vogelforvirginia.com.